it's kind of an interesting way to identify what's important to you as a consumer, which usually connects to what's important to you as a person. Like what types of brands you attach yourself to, based on any number of things. Welcome back to another episode of Bourbon and Brand, where we talk about branding, business, and wherever else the bourbon takes us. I'm Matt, and this is Hien. Yo, your boys from Huck Finch Branding. Today we're going to talk about brands that we love personally and why we connect with them. And hopefully that might help you highlight some of the things that might be your special sauce or something that's unique about your brand that maybe you aren't talking about or you're still trying to identify in your own business.
Yeah, and before we get into this topic and how we go about doing it, make sure to subscribe to the show by clicking the subscribe button below, because you're already watching the show, so you might as well. And make sure to ring that bell.
Ring it every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually just once, so you don't unsubscribe.
Yeah, just once. Just once.
Yeah.
All right, so would you like to share maybe why we're talking about this topic?
Yeah, it's an important part of like creating a brand, and like we're always trying to think of ways to differentiate. Like if we're a brand studio, like
right.
We're the only one, so that's what's unique about us. Just kidding.
Yeah.
We have to position ourselves in a unique and different way, and that was top of mind when we started. Not even only this business, but just sitting down to figure out what type of business we were going to do at all. So how are we going to stand out, and how are we going to be different? And to help us answer that question, we always ask everyone else, what brands inspire you, as we try to help them along that way, because it's kind of an interesting way to identify what's important to you as a consumer, which usually connects to what's important to you as a person. Like what types of brands you attach yourself to, based on any number of things, causes, a certain social status, their tagline, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for you. Would you like to take a sip of our bourbon, courtesy of Ann Arbor Distilling and Fox River?
I absolutely would.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, well, as you said, like we always like to ask this question, very much like in that first interaction with clients, because a lot of it comes down to knowing why. I mean, we connect with brands. I think that's the simplest way of putting it. We talked about it in our brand archetype episode.
Yep.
Which if you haven't watched, definitely check it out. The brands that are most successful or create a sense of loyalty are the ones where they connect intimately with people. People see themselves in the brand. It's reflective. So we like to ask this question because we want to know why people like certain brands and what they see in themselves in those brands.
Yeah, I also think a lot too. I think it was the almighty Bezos that kind of says like brands. Your brand really is like what other people say about when you're not in a room. There's a lot of truth to that. There's some other definitions of branding as well, but it's an interesting way to think about it because like that's kind of what this exercise is. You might say like, I like Nike, but like probably they're not just gonna just like blurt out just do it. Like there's gonna be some other things there, or you might not quite know why you buy it over Adidas because we don't think that consciously about this always. So what is it about it? Is it because, like you buy Under Armour because you love Tom Brady and what he stands for? So it's an interesting thing to like actually reflect on, like what type of shoes you wear, whatever types of brands that you like, what computer you use, like why actually is it?
Yeah. It's
usually a little bit deeper than just like you bought it on your way out of the store if it's something you buy over and over. So it is kind of ultimately like, well, this is what... If you're the brands out there listening, the ones we talk about today, like I guess this is what we're saying when you're not in the room.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning that it's obviously important to differentiate your brand because you don't want to look like everyone else. I think a simple way of looking at it is like if you were a cereal on a shelf at a grocery store, if your box is exactly like everybody else's, no one's really gonna notice it. But also, it's a really challenging thing though to take the time to think through what does make my brand unique. So we like asking this question because it helps us figure out, can we frame this brand around these traits and these qualities that really inspire them? Because if they're happy with that, then they should theoretically be happy having those be traits that their audience see.
Yeah, absolutely. So should we dive into a couple of like
Yeah.
at least collaboratively our favorite, I guess, team brands that these are really ones like we just talk about not out of an attempt, but they just come up a lot when we're trying to illustrate this in workshops or different like descriptions of what brand is and what's important.
And the self-serving thing is we're saying these brands because we're going to tag every single one of them
That's
to the
right.
video in hopes that they give us a sponsorship to the show.
Right. And it just social media, right?
So we got 5 for you, and then we're each going to share some individual ones that really resonate with us.
Yep.
And for the most part, like we hope that part of these brands are reflective in Huck Finch, in Bourbon and Brand, Life on Brand, everything that we do.
Yeah.
You know, the quality that we find in these brands should be seen in them, and what's really important to us. Yeah. And a local one that's really has been influential on the both of us is Zingerman's, particularly around the how they live their culture and the values they believe in, and how you can just really honestly see their mission in action.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me is like it's somewhat of an origin story to like, at least for my part, is I lived right by like a coffee shop that's in the Zingerman's like kind of family of brands. And we're working on like visioning and mission work and all of those types of things, like trying to figure it out for ourselves and what we were working on. And there was a book in there about those things from the owner of Zingerman's that I just got while waiting for coffee, and then found out that something like called Zing Train exists, where they teach anyone who wants to go through there and learn the same thing as their staff would learn in training. And that's one of the things I love most about them, is it's just like there's a transparency and a like way of doing things that's totally fine for them to say out loud to anybody, whether, you know, it's just an outsider coming in for a class. You could literally be sitting next to someone that's working there and going through their training.
And the next brand that really inspires us both, we love wearing their stuff, even though they're a little pricey. So we'd love for you to give us some of your clothes for the shout out.
yeah, just really, you know, we'll try it out, we'll test it.
Yeah, whatever needs
to be done, we'll do the hard work.
And the name of that brand is Reigning Champ. So if you haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. What's cool about them is the simplicity in their design, but yet it's highly functional. They're a clothing brand, worth mentioning. And I think the other part about them that really resonates with us is their catalog, their collection of clothes is actually very limited. They sell very limited stuff, and but at the same time, like it's enough. It kind of shows you that you don't have to be all things in order to have a successful business.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just they're like the quality standard of what they're doing comes first, so it leads to that like limitation. Like the type of exciting release for them is like they have a maroon color now. It's like that's what you talk. It's like it's this exact same sweatshirt with the exact same quality love, but it's like, did you get the red one yet?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like funny to think about, but in a lot of ways to me that speaks to the fact that they're like really careful and intentional about just even a new color, but also they're spending most of their time making a great product.
They're not even choosing like crazy ass colors. They're choosing black, gray, blue, a little bit maroon here and there, and it's amazing that they found an audience that just wants only those colors. Part of the beauty of creating a brand is you can't be all things to everybody. Yeah, so look out for the Reigning Champ Huck Finch collabo coming at you in the near future.
Yeah, very, very near future.
Another clothing brand that we would love to have a collabo with is Carhartt.
Yeah, Carhartt's awesome. They're a Michigan brand, so I think there's that there. Carhartt, I don't know if it's just because we're from here, but it really feels like a Michigan, like blue collar brand. But something that I think is really cool is like they really understand that audience that they're making clothes for. Like it shows in their marketing, it shows in every piece of branding that they do. But they also have like the Carhartt like work in progress kind of division, which is just dedicated to doing like something to a slightly different audience, but like it allows them to kind of experiment a little bit with what is possible within their brand architecture.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the story behind like how Carhartt WIP came about, but as you said, like they're very keyed in on their audience, which is the American blue collar folks, and so they were only selling in the U.S. North American market, and Europeans who really wanted to wear Carhartt, but they weren't distributing there. So some Europeans just came up to Carhartt and was like, sell us like the rights to distribute the brand, and we'll call it something different.
Yeah.
And they call it WIP, which now sells more kind of the skater, streetwear kind of vibe. They actually just recently rolled out like a Motown Records like collabo. So again, like as you said, the brand architecture is very like if you want a more kind of slim fitting, more edgy, artsy kind of clothes, you go for the WIP. But if you're interested in just a straight Carhartt, like it's gonna last a lifetime. You can just rock the regular brand. Yeah, we're sticking in the clothing brand market here a little bit, but for this one, the upcoming one, for a different reason. Sure. So I think this one's a little less surprising, but Patagonia is another brand that really inspired us. And a big reason for that is the founder, Yvon Chouinard, is just highly influential in our lives. He's just the way that he just talks about business and his philosophy around it. He calls himself a reluctant businessman. And it really shows with the brand because they just do things differently. And what really inspires us about that brand is that when you stand for something, then you have to stand for it. And they draw the line in their sand, and it's really about protecting the environment in every single way and being environmental stewards. They promote brands and organizations that help the environment, but they themselves come out against any kind of like policies that could negatively affect the environment. And they're constantly iterating, trying to find ways to produce zero waste from their products.
Yeah, and they lead the way for the whole kind of industry in that way. And I think that's kind of a through line to a lot of the brands that we love is they're doing some of these behind the scenes. He's like, their clothes look great and they do other things to like that just fit with the style we like or whatever it might be. But they're usually kind of doing something else or setting the standard for the industry or their niche at least. Yeah,
they guarantee their products for life. You can send your stuff into them, they'll fix it. If you don't want it anymore, they'll resell it. You don't even have to send them Patagonia stuff. They will fix anything. They have a bus that travels around the country that will just sew up clothes for you because they just wanted to use less stuff. So that's just how they do things differently. They're just not following trends. They're setting the trend. It's very inspirational, and it all comes from Yvon.
A guy who's not there day to day as well. That's the amazing part of it.
Exactly. He's not there for half the year. And then the last brand that just basically connects all of us is Allbirds. We absolutely love them. Matt's actually wearing a pair of Allbirds right now. You can't see them, but take my word for it. Kind of similar to Patagonia in a way that they're really about the environment. They really care, but they do it in a different way. Like they're a little more kooky, a little more whimsical. They have like a dancing sheep as their like mascot. But also again, like it's very, very clean design, very simple, and just a philosophy again, like better products in a better way.
It just kind of goes to show in terms of like. Just because there are 1,000 shoe brands, like they found a way to seem like completely different than everybody else, and that was obvious from like the first day just hearing about them.
I think we both really do care about the environment and social causes. We have Scouts Honor and our way of kind of giving back. We know that what we do on a day-to-day isn't saving the world, but there are tons of organizations out there that are trying to. Small little plug and something that we are trying to do to help the environment in some small way is you might have noticed that both of us are wearing these koala shirts that we both designed. If you probably recognize that some fucked up shit's happening in Australia right now. A lot of koalas are dying. People are being displaced with wildfires due to climate change. So we want to help out in some small way. We designed these shirts. So if you click the link below for the shirt, you buy it, all the proceeds will go to support the wildfire relief there. Yeah, so definitely, if you want to support in some small way and also wear an awesome looking shirt, at least we think so, definitely check out the link below and buy the shirt. And we're going to get into some 3 brands that inspire each of us individually. So I guess I'll do the honors. I'll go first.
Go for it.
I know that it was hard for both of us to narrow down to 3. But the first one that popped up to mind was Dyson. One was because of James Dyson, actually Sir James Dyson. He's knighted.
There's another Sir. Spoiler alert. There's another Sir.
Coming up. So if you were thinking about stop watching the show, you should keep watching and to hear who the other Sir is. But the part of this is James Dyson. Like I think he's just inspirational as an inventor. How he's kept at this, his philosophy and his approach. Another part of it I love is the fact that like they just price their products at a premium. They know what they're worth, and they charge it. they know they're probably eliminating a certain market, but they're perfectly fine with it. I think they have their own version of a Roomba that would normally go for $200, $500 a pop.
Yep.
Theirs goes for like over $1,000.
Yeah.
You can still win in your market without being the lowest cost option.
It's like a premium brand that everybody knows about.
Yep.
You know, it's like everyone kind of wants that Dyson vacuum. They might not have it, but they're not like, that's a bad vacuum or I'm not sure. Like most people know that it's great.
Yeah.
So
yeah, back in the 80s when they first came out, like this is the perfect kind of like innovator like scenario where people were just like, "What the fuck are you thinking about doing this?" Like, if anyone was gonna do this, it would be Hoover.
Right.
And obviously, they're not putting out a bagless vacuum, so it's not something we need.
Yeah.
And he just was like, "That's not a legitimate reason to not have this. I'm gonna go for it." And look where they are now.
Yeah.
Well, are you ready to review who this other sir is?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm like just continues like people are gonna stay on the line for the show.
Actually, yeah, we could probably save him.
Yeah. It's like they're gonna want to hear this second sir. It's like, yeah, what a weird thing to build suspense over. But yeah, kind of starting with it. You just we'll do the reveal right away with Virgin, and they're one of the larger like brands on our list because we try to think it's like we don't like list Apple because we use MacBooks and things like that. We've all heard stories behind that brand, but we're very into purpose-driven companies, and we talked on a previous episode about like purpose statements and mission statements and all these different things.
Yeah, we're plugging a lot of episodes.
Yeah, we are. It's just self-sustaining like economy of episodes, but really I bring that up because like they use the word purpose a ton in their culture page. Like they have purpose principles, everything that they do, and a lot of the things they do are seemingly like pretty crazy. They have a lot of ventures that fail almost by design, but they each have a purpose and there's like a reason that they attempt these things. So I love that dynamic of like there's a reason that we're going to try this thing. It might sound a little crazy to people, but everybody that's working on it knows why. And it's also okay if it fails. Like we don't want to just completely like scrap that type of an idea if we think it's worthwhile and has a purpose behind it. So I think that's really, really interesting. And like Richard Branson is the sir we're talking about, obviously.
Not Sir Virgin.
Yeah, it should be. He should definitely trademark that. I think he has the sense of humor where he like might have actually done it. But the other thing that's kind of cool, and like mostly through like using Richard Branson as he's kind of like Gary Vee before Gary Vee in a way, but like using his profile to do good outside of the Virgin Group is actually a part of the Virgin Group's purpose. So I think that's always awesome too. Like, you know, Patagonia has a lot of things as well. Virgin is doing a ton of things from the environmental standpoint, but it's like a separate thing, but included on the Virgin page that like they should be looking for ways to make the world better outside of it.
Yeah.
Like that's as much a part of their mission as doing these other things, launching all sorts of different businesses. So they've always stood out to me, and they feel like one of those brands everyone knows about, but they're just slightly out of that category of like you'll definitely see them in every brand presentation ever. So I thought it was worth kind of mentioning them as a big brand. And then completely from the opposite standpoint, I thought it would be kind of cool to bring up a personal brand, just a dude that is kind of in a niche audience, but has done like a great job of building his thing to a specific audience, and then it kind of exploded in terms of a book. And his name is Mark Manson, and a lot of people probably don't even recognize his name, but he wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which a lot of people probably do notice. I remember when I first found his website, which was a little while before the book came out, and it was just like, I write about big ideas and give life advice that doesn't suck. And I was just like, I think I'm gonna like this guy. Like, if we met in an airport, like we could easily sit down and have a bourbon together, probably. So that caught me like right away, and I think it caught a lot of other people. And he is very frank, and we've seen all these different books with like very similar titles since. But like he has like a diehard audience that was like people were like, you know, we were there for the not giving a fuck movement way early, and he was kind of the catalyst for that. In a whole kind of almost genre of like way of thinking and mindset about life. So like Virgin being this huge brand, a lot of the other ones are pretty big brands with a few exceptions. But this is just like one dude to this day who primarily operates out of his like blog, where you can like subscribe to premium content for like $2.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the thing that really inspired me with Mark is that right around the time when the book came out, like Tim Ferriss obviously was a huge deal. James clear.
Yeah.
These guys talking about just Ryan Holiday's another one.
Yeah.
These guys talking about just life and life philosophy, but writing in a certain more kind of how do I put this, clean, less explicit way.
Right.
Here comes Mark Manson out of nowhere and just dropping the same kind of knowledge, but in a voice and tone that I think resonates with us more than the other three that we just mentioned, even though we love the other three.
Yep.
Like he's just dropping F-bombs. Just has like jokes in there that and the sense of humor maybe not like be for everybody. And it really kind of showed me, I was like, this is how we talk. This is who we are. Yeah. And it could still be very valuable information in our tone of voice. And I think it ties into my second one really, really well is a show that you and I both love is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah. That is a brand that I absolutely
Hopefully
love.
Mark likes that show because we're like, you are forever linked in terms of bourbon brand.
It'd be weird if he didn't, right? But it's like I chose them because of this very similar to Mark, where just a sense of irreverence and the sense of humor and how it's just out there. Like it's not for everybody. And that's what I love about the brand that we try to establish is that we're not for everybody. Yeah. Like we're sitting here drinking bourbon and just bantering about brands and this brand that we love in our own way. It's not the most clean cut. There's other people who can do this for you. But this is just who we are. If you like it, then cool. Yeah. And that's the same thing with Always Sunny. I'll always enjoy, and they just kind of push the edge a little bit, a lot of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
a lot of it. Yeah. But still have like just this diehard fan. These diehard fans that will always just love them for who they are and what they are, and that's what I think we hope to establish with everything that we do. Is that either you like it or you don't. That's perfectly cool with us. Yep. As the guys who write the shows, like their chief motivation as they write every episode is if the writer's room can laugh and find it funny, it's going to go into the show. And and when we do presentations or with clients, whatever they may be, the show, if you and I are going to laugh, that's good enough. Yeah. I don't give a fuck if nobody else laughs. Like if we laugh, it's funny to us. That's good enough. And
I'm convinced that as many as 3 other people in the world will also find it. We just need to find them. 25%. That's a huge increase.
Yeah, that's an increase.
Do you want to hit your last one? I think this is a really interesting one as well.
Yeah, the last one I'll drop that came to mind as a film lover, and you love films as well, is Criterion Collection. And I think why I picked them was one, all their covers are absolutely beautifully designed. They're all very different, very unique. Why I picked them was the fact that they're just curating all these films that they believe need to be preserved and need to be watched. Yep. And they're aimed at a certain market. They're aimed at people who love film, particularly art films. So that's its why. Like I think the value there is like there's just so many movies out there. Which one do I watch? Yep. And here is a brand that I can trust that they're going to just roll out films. I'll give it a try. Yep. I watched some shitty films because of them. Right. I'm looking at 500 Days right here. Like that movie was terrible, and Videodrome terrible. But I trust them enough to at least give it a try, and I want to be able to have our brand establish a sense of trust with our viewers that I'm going to at least give it a try because the Huck Finch boys told me to.
Yep, yeah, and I mean, for my money, anybody who takes the time to preserve Final Destination 3, I'm just kidding, that's not in the Criterion Collection.
Final Destination 2.
Yeah, 3 just really, how many Final Destinations can you have? My last one, very kind of similar sounding in its description to like a Patagonia or something like that. But they're called United by Blue, and I found them like very randomly shopping, I think on Backcountry or something like that. And this thing that like caught my eye was that they were using bison down. It's super, super warm and highly sustainable. So it's like much like Allbirds, like, they're shaking up that down game, like the filling of coats, but because of sustainability. So that led me into like further parts of their story where, like everything that you do, like allows them to clean like a certain amount of ocean water, like, which is also awesome. But even beyond that, they invite people to come out and do it with them. Like they have events where like you can join the United by Blue team, and they're not a huge company. They're nowhere near the size of, they're more like reigning champ than they are a Patagonia or something like that. But like, I wanted to bring them up because it was such an interesting, like learning experience through this like really unique like bison down thing, and it looks really nice as well. Like full disclosure, if it didn't look cool, let's be honest, I wasn't clicking on it. But it looked great, but also just like the bison down thing really stood out to me. But there was a whole story and a reason that they pursued that, and there's a whole process and story on your page where you can like learn about sort of how they came up with this and why.
I think what's really inspiring about that is it shows that if you are able to clearly articulate a story and a purpose, that people will give you a try, people will rally around you. And I remember you telling me about them, like, have you ever heard of this brand? And I had not. The other part of it is that I tell people to check out United by Blue, even though I don't own a single thing from them, because I just think it's such a cool brand, and that's the beauty of branding and differentiating. And that like people will love your brand even if they don't own it. Like you mentioned Tesla earlier. Neither one of us drive a Tesla.
Right.
So Tesla, you want to give us a Tesla to drive?
Right. Again, we'll try it out. We'll drink bourbon in it, but not responsibly. We won't be driving.
We'll be driving. We'll sit there. We'll do like the car karaoke thing where we'll have someone tow us as we drink the bourbon.
Yeah. We'll figure something out. If you do your part, we'll do ours. That's I think that's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
So yeah, like hopefully we kind of outlined a few ways to be different.
Yep.
You know, we didn't want to force anything, so there's some similarities in there, but back to where we started, it tells a lot about like the person and what like each of us individually, collectively care about. And a lot of the brands that we love have similarities. They have similar values and things like that. That tie them together, and that's why they ended up on this list.
Exactly.
You know, as much as I wanted to get like very different things, it's like it turns out, unsurprisingly, when you do this kind of like audit of the brands you like, that there's some like core value things that end up being, well, that's why you chose them instead of something else.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning that all the brands that we talked about that we love, none of them are within the space in which that we do, like we work in. And that's an important thing to mention, especially now that we're in the last sip, because I think I'm down to the very bottom here, is that as you do this, it's very important to think through the question of like, what brands inspire me? Pick brands that you don't work in or live in, because you just end up copycatting other brands that are like that. Like find ones that are different and find ways to make them relatable within your space, because you're just going to create something new and unique for your brand.
Yeah, it's a great point, because as similar as some of these brands are, they're all very different in terms of like what they offer and like different features and things and who they are, and their stories are different. So there's still ways to even stand out and differentiate and be unique. The last sip, like think about differentiating. It's a great exercise. Run it for yourself. It won't be as obvious as you think. At least it wasn't when we're in the world. So we try to think of some different ones, and it took a little bit of time to do that. And like you mentioned, like get like outside your industry. Like don't necessarily do it as like a competitive landscape. Just think about the things that attract you as a consumer, things that you buy over and over. And you might be surprised pleasantly surprised in some cases at what you come up with.
Yeah. So I think we're at the end of our drink here. So thank you. So again, ask yourself the question, what brands inspire me? And again, we're going to tag all these different brands. So if you've never heard of them, check them out. And of course, if you want to support koalas, because who doesn't love koalas, make sure to get a shirt. Take a picture with it, show it to us. We would love that. And also, if you have brands that inspire you, add a comment below. Let us know why you love them. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. We'll see you again next week.
All right. Later. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks for watching another episode of Bourbon and Brand. Be sure to leave your questions in comments below so we can get to them in a future episode.
And make sure to subscribe to the show by clicking subscribe below, and turn on the bell to get notified of all future episodes of the greatest freaking show about bourbon and branding. Cheers.